Well, hi, I'm Noah Bradley with Handmade House TV. On this week's episode, I'd like to share with you how I light the first fire of the winter season. Stay tuned. Well, okay, it's time to light that first fire of the season. I so enjoy fires in a fireplace, and I'm going to show you exactly how it is I do it and why I do it. My way is not the only way. It's the way that I do it. I've been lighting fires my entire life. I can't ever remember a time when there wasn't a fireplace and or a wood stove in my life. One of the reasons why I'd like to show you how I light a fire is that I want you to first of all notice the keystone, the very top of the arch in this fireplace. If you'll notice, it's absolutely clean. And whereas if you will notice a lot of fireplaces that are owned by other individuals, that have been built by other individuals, you'll notice that that top stone is often smoky and covered over, blackened. A lot of fireplaces are ruined by the improper lighting of a fire in a fireplace. Quite often the mason or the builder is blamed for building an improper fireplace that won't draw correctly. Actually, thanks to building codes, the working aspects of a fireplace in almost all masonry fireplaces are identical. The outside climate and elevation can have some effect on the draw of a fireplace, but nonetheless, if a fire is built properly in a fireplace, there's no reason for it to smoke at all, and there's no reason for it to stain. And this has been my primary fireplace for 10 years now. And you'll notice that there is no staining whatsoever above that. And that's because I employ proper lighting techniques, and that's what I'd like to do for you. I'd like to demonstrate to you how to light a fire using just one single match. All right, in lighting a fire, first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that my damper is always open. That's a good thing to do. And in the back of the fireplace also I have a fresh air intake. And it's not a bad idea to open it, and basically it's just a little door that will allow fresh air in from the outside. And the idea in building a fire is that we want heat to rise. If the heat rises from here and goes out through the chimney, that means the smoke will go out as well. And so the first thing we want a good draw, be able to come in here and supply plenty of movement to go up. And then the other thing is that the fact that the chimney itself is cold, that we need to warm it up as quickly as possible. That right now there's a cold deposit of air outside that's resting on the chimney, that we want the chimney hot so that it will continue the rise of this, and not the smoke go up, not the heat go up and then encounter a bubble of cold air that sets on top of it. So we really need to create a thrust, a quick flash of sudden heat in order to burst upwards. We don't want a kind of a mellow fire to begin with, and that is that there won't be any quick movement of air in order to get this action going that a chimney creates in pulling the smoke out of the home. And the first thing you'll notice in my fireplace is that I do like to keep a bed of ashes down in the bottom of it. You can't start the year with ashes, and a lot of people consider it a dirty thing. They want to get rid of it, but I find that ashes will do a much better job at holding my coals and give me a much more warmth out of a fireplace as a result of it. So I like to keep a nice little bed of ashes in there. Also, I do make use of andirons, and these are hand forged ones, not cast. They're solid steel, which will hold up better than cast iron will, which often breaks. At least that's been my record of it. And the purpose of andirons is twofold. For one thing, it keeps the logs from holding back quite often, to keep them from rolling out onto our hearth. but also it holds the courses of the logs up, which allows air to come in below and come up through our firewood and out through the top of the chimney. So it helps create that cycle. So andirons are handy things to have. A lot of times I cheat a little bit, and that is that I put wood down below the andirons, and some people would consider this a bit of a waste of firewood, but I try to get as much wood into a fireplace as I possibly can before I light the fire. That I like the idea of lighting a fire and it being maintenance free for as long as possible, that I don't have to add anything to it in order to keep the fire going. I like to be able to light a fire with a single match and then be able to sit back and enjoy it for an hour or two without having to add any more wood to it or do anything more to it. And so I'll add a couple of pieces in there, and basically this will allow any coals or such to fall down here. It gives me more burning power, more lasting power, and it creates the products of some nice coals in the bottom when I do that. And along the sides of the fireplace, I like to start a process that, let me demonstrate this to you, and that is that if we ever put any of our wood in there where the wood is angled out toward the face of the fireplace, the smoke is only going to gather around this and be pushed out, follow along this firewood and be out here where we don't want the wood. So we never want to angle any of our wood so that the top of it is pointing outward. We always want to create any kind of angle going back. Now, typically when you see a fireplace, in many fireplaces, all the logs are neatly stacked horizontal, and that's a nice way to do it. But we also want to, whenever we can, to create a couple of vertical lines going upward, much like I do back here in the back corners of the fireplace. Again, what this is doing, it's creating an incentive for any kind of flame to follow along the course of the logs and go toward the back of the fireplace and up. So I always try to make sure that the tallest part of my finished fireplace, finished stacking of the logs, is to the back of the chimney, so that the smoke will gather up, it'll follow the logs, and it'll follow it to the back of the fireplace. Now, after I get the initial bottom framework of logs into place, then it's time for me to put in my newspaper. Newspaper is what human beings used to read in order to learn the news. It's almost totally outdated now, and so a lot of times for me to get newspapers, I actually discontinued buying newspapers. In order for me to get it, I have to borrow it from neighbors or other sources. I don't know what we're going to do when we totally eliminate newspapers from circulation. So I ball up the newspaper, and I first of all do an initial filling in. Now, in order to do it, you don't want to ball up the newspaper into a tight ball where there's no air whatsoever. But you do want to get it kind of halfway where there's definitely air infiltration into it, and that's when it'll burn at its highest, quickest, fastest rate. You never want to come in with newspaper and be lazy and just put it in there like that this will almost never burn. You'll find out, you'll come in the next day and you'll find some of the newspaper in there so you can actually read it. So you want to always ball it up, and you don't want to be chintzy. You want to be able to impress people with your fire lighting ability. You want to be able to do a one-match fire, and the idea is to get things bursting into place. You want to create that draw that will carry you up above, and you want to be able to light your kindling, and that would come next. Now, one kind of newspaper that you don't want to use are all of the sale ads, the colored, glossy, slick pieces that they just don't burn. They're nasty. They're probably bad for the environment, and they just won't burn as much as the regular black printed. So stick with the black printed and recycle these. So next we want to put some of our kindling in there. We want to put our most flammable pieces up first, and I have some old dried wood pieces, and here's a few scraps from my sawhorse project that we built a few episodes ago, and some bark from an old tree, and just smaller, really dry pieces. The fuzzier they are, the more splintered they are, the better they are. And kindling is so precious. It's an important part of building a fire. And again, I try to, you can see I'm orienting things as much upward as I can, and stacking it higher in the back than in the front. And I'm deliberately leaving as much space as I can in each between each course so that the flames can lick around it. And so now it's time to light the fireplace, and we're going to rub 2 sticks together until we get enough heat going in order to do it. But one of the key features in a handmade house is that we make the best of the use of yesterday's wisdom and combine it with the best that modern day has to offer. And you can't beat a little gas-fired lighter. And I tend to try to light it from a variety of locations. Again, what I'm after is as big of a fast impact as I possibly can to get the drawing action of the fire going on. I really want that smoke to go up. I want a burst of heat as quickly and as intently as possible. Well, all right, we've got a nice fire going now in the fireplace, and I'm so looking forward to going over and enjoying it. Once it settles down a bit, it's really pouring out the heat right now, and that's what we want out of our fireplace. On an upcoming episode, we're going to talk about fireplaces versus wood stoves. I'm a big proponent of both, and we're going to touch on Rumford fireplaces and Russian fireplaces as well. If you'd like to know more about the virtues of stone fireplaces, I invite you to visit an earlier episode of Handmade House TV, where I go into depth on the beauty of and considerations that you need to take in designing your own fireplace. And if you're interested in creating your own, building your own fireplace, or making sure that the stonemason you hire build the stone fireplace of your dreams. I invite you to consider joining us within the Stonemason Academy, which will be released in the upcoming weeks, where I'll go step by step through the creation of each individual stone and how it all comes together. And so anyway, well, thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Handmade House TV. I would like to thank 5 new members of the Handmade House Guild and hope that you would consider joining us within there. Justin Dormer, Chris Davis, Mark LaBelle, Karen Meyerding, and Tom Munster. Thank you guys so much for supporting the Handmade House Guild and in turn this Handmade House TV series. Until next time, we'll see you.